So we're going to begin starting to talk about the epidermis. Again, the epidermis is the most superficial layer of your skin, and it actually has 5 sublayers. And on our next video, we'll talk about those 5 sublayers, which are known as stratums. Okay, so we'll get into that and what's going on in there. This video, we're just going to concentrate on the different cells that we're about to see in that next video. And so the cells that we're going to look at are something called a melanocyte. And then we've got these things called Merkel cells. And then we've got Langerhans cells and keratinocytes. Remember, cytes, C-Y-T-E, means some sort of cell. So those are the 4 ones we're going to talk about on this video. So if you'll come down past that, there's an area for you to write. We're going to write to the side on our next video. So types of cells in our epidermis, and we're going to start near that basement membrane before we get into the dermis. So right here we're going to see some cells, and those are called melanocytes. Melanocytes. And if you were making an educated guess, what do you think melanocytes might make? If you said melanin, you are absolutely correct. So they produce melanin. And so melanin is the pigments for your skin. So they produce melanin. And there are a couple different kinds of melanin, some that produce orangey reddish colors, some that produce brownish black colors. And so depending on your ratio, it gives you your skin tone color. So, but it is the melanin that is going to determine our skin color. So it is the melanin that gives our skin color. Not the melanocyte, not the cell, but the actual pigmentation, melanin, gives our skin color. And so what's important about this melanin, and it is the melanin that's being produced by the melanocyte, this is going to protect us from UV light. And so that's kind of important. Protects us from UV. And so genetically it is a protection. So I want to show you this little site thing here. So let me skip past that. So if you'll notice, this is the big blobby. This is the melanocyte. Okay, and we're going to see some of those others. All these other guys are called keratinocytes, and we'll get to those in just a moment. So these keratinocytes produce keratin. That's one of the things they do. So you've got some that are down here lower in the basal stratum, but then you've got some up there higher. So what's happening is these little brown dots that you are seeing on here, that is melanin. So we've got melanin, and so these guys will get produced, and then they'll pinch off in a little vesicle, and they will exocytose. And so the way these get in this little bubble, these are called melanosomes. This is the organelle that pinches off, and it's going to end up inside a keratinocyte. So I have a better little picture for you to see. So here is a melanocyte, and these little bubbles pinch off. The little individual things are melanin, and the bigger bubble, this, is called a melanosome. So basically the bubble filled with melanin, and this will go through endocytosis, probably more of a phagocytosis, because this is a larger molecule, and this keratinocyte will basically engulf it. So there are some terms, exocytose, and now we're endocytosing over here. So this different type of cell, keratinocytes, which make keratin, they engulf the melanin. So now we've got melanin over here, and we've got some melanin over here. So what's cool about this is, if this were our keratinocyte, which are up in the more superficial sublayers here, what the melanin does, it puts itself around the nucleus. So if this were, well, there's the nucleus here. And so the melanin starts making almost like a little umbrella going on here. I guess we can make a little umbrella thing. Makes a little umbrella, and it protects the nucleus from, let's see if I can make it, from this guy here. So this sun giving us the UV light, it protects the nucleus. Well, why is that important? I don't know. There's something in your nucleus called your DNA. If the sun, the UV light messes up your DNA, we could get cancer, like skin cancer, etc. So the melanocytes make the melanin, but it is the melanin itself that is capping and protecting the nucleus. So the melanin, and the way it gets over there is through that melanosome bubble, and then it gets into another cell. It's pretty cool little way that our body protects ourselves from that sunlight that we need, because we know our skin makes vitamin D for our body. So we need the sunlight, but we also need to protect our nucleus from the bad UV light. There's different types of UV, so the bad UV is what we want to protect ourselves from. So that is the melanocytes. Let me get back to our beginning where I was writing and go back down here. And let's talk about those other ones. Go back to so there's our melanocytes making melanin. I do want to put one more little dot on here. All humans have the same number of melanocytes. So the sites are the cells. It's not like some of us have 20 cells and some of us have 80 cells, whatever. That's just a made-up number there, but or like thousands, etc. But we all have the same number. So the difference is the different amount of melanin that those cells are producing. You know, so like maybe you work with some people, and some people can do a lot faster work than others. So some of our melanocytes work faster, and it's also those different types of melanin that's being produced. So some of them produce different ratios between the light and the dark, and that leads to our different skin colors. So it is not the melanocytes that change our skin colors, it's the different amounts and types of melanin. That's a key word. Probably going to be a question that you'll see pop up. All right, so let's go on. And so we've got as we move on up in there, we've got these Merkel cells. Merkel cells. And we're going to see those on a video on just a little bit of overview of receptors. Merkel cells are sensory cells. So they're going to sense very light touch. And that's why they're up in the epidermis, very light touch. So they're a sensory that's picking up if you've got something crawling on you or something. That's a Merkel cell that's usually picking up that information. And we'll see those Merkel discs that are on those cells in another video. Our next one are going to be called Langerhans cells. Let's make that one plural. Langerhans cells, and we're going to find those in, of course, your epidermis, because that's the ones we're talking about. They're specifically in the stratum spinosum. So that's important for us to know. And what these guys are, they are like a little protective cell in that, and so we call them macrophages. So anytime you see macrophages, think of some sort of cell that's really big that can destroy other cells. That's what a macrophage. So a macrophage cell that engulfs and destroys bacteria and maybe other dead cells. Bacteria, damaged and bacteria and damaged cells. How about that? So it's basically kind of getting all that stuff out of the way, damaged cells, other foreign material, etc. So they play a big role in like a first line of defense against things that aren't really supposed to be trying to invade your skin. So that's good. They don't get everything, but they try. And then our last but not least cell that we're going to talk about is a keratinocyte. And again, there's that word cyte. So they are producing keratin, which is a protein. And they also are going to have that melanin in them that we saw. So the keratin protein. And they protect and waterproof our skin. And we'll go into more detail a little bit. So they are going to protect and waterproof our skin. Protect and waterproof our skin. And we'll see how they waterproof it as we talk about the different layers of our skin. All right, so that's our 4 main cells. We're going to move on to stratum, but that's all for this video.